Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Providence. Marie Bartholdi in the booth alongside Marshall Sutcliffe. There you see our teams down in the feature match area. Let's start in on Sam Pardee and Brad Nelson. Brad Nelson, of course, coming off of a few really big victories recently.
Yeah, he's been on an absolute ripping tear. Now, most of that success, though, has come in standard.
Yes.
And I'll be curious to see how he does here in the limited setting, especially with the team dynamic going on.
All right, Sam Pardee kicking things off with the mountain. Brad Nelson's got a pair of forests in play. Black-red here so far for Sam Pardee. Is going to play Wanted Scoundrels. Here's a card, Marshall, a 4-3 for 2.
Yeah, that thing makes a statement and quickly. And this was actually a big miss here for Brad with Tishana's Wayfinder. He really wanted to hit off of the Explorer mechanic so that he could actually trade off, and now he can't. So that was, even though it happened quickly, a real kind of early hold-your-breath moment here.
Headstrong Brute, the follow-up play for Sam Pardee, who looks to be smashing down here. Red-Black Pirates.
Yeah, Red-Black Pirates is a very aggressive two-color pair, and one that can end the game quite quickly. And Brad Nelson...
Whiff again there on the Explorer with the Siren Lookout.
Yeah, he's really not running well. I've found early in the format, remember, this format has been out for all of a week. Well,
right.
Technically it's been out for a few hours. But since the pre-release, it's been a week. And, of course, we get it on Magic Online as well. There's Pirate's Cutlass, by the way, for Pardee. But I found that whenever I play an Explore creature, I'd much rather hit and get the +1/+1 counter.
Absolutely.
Even though it's nice to draw a card, it's really would rather have this be a 3/3 and a 2/3 flyer rather than a couple of lands in hand and the little creatures that he's got.
So Brad Nelson already knocked down to 11 thanks to the help of the Pirate's Cutlass on that Headstrong Brute. Pirate's Cutlass, by the way, just been really impressed by this card, Marshall.
Interesting. Yeah, you know what? I think Pirate's Cutlass is quite strong. It has an immediate impact when you play it in a Pirates deck, which is the main place you play it, in that it gets equipped for free the first time, and then on top of it, it can be reasonable to only pay 2 mana to equip for a pretty good stat bump.
And now you see kind of the benefit of putting something like this 4/3 that does have a pretty big drawback in that when it dies, your opponent gets 2 treasure, but Brad Nelson's sitting over there flooded, so kind of what's he going to do with it anyway?
Yeah, it was interesting because last turn, Pardee did not attack with it, even though it would have traded for both creatures. And yes, given Brad a couple of treasure, now he's attacking, but this time he has mana available. And that's going to have to give Brad Nelson pause to think about what it is that Sam could be representing here.
All right, we've got a Windstrider flashed in for Brad Nelson, 3/3 flyer.
Yeah, that's going to change combat, though Pardee looks like he's letting Brad go to blocks, meaning that he doesn't have a removal spell to kill it immediately.
It's going to jump in front of those Wanted Scoundrels, of course.
And yeah, that's a smart play. It looks like Sure Strike here from Pardee, and you can see why he didn't attack this turn but did this turn. And Brad is not going to be surprised at all. Dang, Pardee's nasty. Direfleet Captain too?
Well, this is just, like you said, Marshall, a premier version of one of the tribes that we're seeing on Ixalan. This is exactly what you want to do if you're Pirates.
Holy smokes!
Oh, Brad, no, not like this. It shows a land of all hands. Just scoop them up.
His next card was a land, too. He looked.
Brutal. Sam Pardee picking up that first game versus Brad Nelson. Oh, yeah, that was just unlucky for Brad there, hitting all lands off of his Explorers and then stuck with nothing but a hand of lands as well. Let's take a look in here at Table B, Martin Dang versus Jacob Wilson. Jacob currently on 11, Martin Dang on 17. We seem to be looking at some green-white dinosaurs from Martin Dang here and a red-white deck for Jacob Wilson.
Yeah, it looks like it might be here. I actually think, I have the deck list now.
Oh,
I can
fabulous.
take a look for Jacob here, but he could be on red-white dinosaurs, which ends up playing out not like a pure dinosaur deck. It's just more of a red-white aggressive deck, but it uses the aggressive dinosaurs to get the job done.
Speaking of getting aggressive, here comes Martin Dang. Swinging in, territorial hammer skull, just showing how fantastic it is tapping down that frenzied raptor.
I keep calling it territorial batter skull. It's just it's not quite that good.
Yeah, batter skull on a dinosaur stick.
I would like
good,
to see
Marshall.
that though. We don't have that.
Raptor companion here for Jacob Wilson, just a little 3/1, but a fine blocker. But territorial hammer skull is going to have one or two things to say about any blockers that Jacob Wilson puts down.
Yeah, and this is where you see the hammer skull really shine is when Martin's out on the front foot here, because he can put Jacob in some super awkward positions, and it looks like he may try to line up lethal for next turn in combination with that Shining Aerosaur.
Yeah, he's assembled quite a good team there on his side of the battlefield. Just a 3-1, a 4-2, and a 2-1 first striker in play for Jacob Wilson.
Jacob, by the way, does look like he is in a dinosaur space deck. He's got 2 Kinjali's Collar in the main deck.
Ooh.
That's the 0-3 that makes your dinosaurs cost 1 less, so he actually is playing a pretty dinosaur-centric build here. He also has 2 copies of Territorial Hammer Skull himself. Wow, that is...
It just doesn't roll off the tongue.
I think I sprained my tongue or something.
There's a look at Kinjali's Collar. 0-3. How do you like that card, Marshall?
Not a lot, to be honest. Yeah, I think it's okay. I have played it multiple times because I thought it would be a little bit better than it's played out. But after having played it, I'm less impressed by it. I find it medium.
Sure. Oh, well, here's a card that's not medium. Watley, Warrior Poet, coming into play here for Jacob Wilson on 5 loyalty.
I have had the distinct pleasure of playing that card exactly 1 time so far, and Watley was absurd.
Yeah, it looks like Jacob's just going to gain some life here.
Yeah, not normally what you want to do with Watley, but you do what you have to do, and that's exactly what Wilson needed here to help stabilize this board from lethal.
Thundering Spineback is a play for Martin Dang, which is an excellent late-game card, just allowing you to pump out 3 3s and giving all of your dinosaurs +1/+1.
Yeah, and on top of it, those dinos get that bonus, so they effectively are 4/4s that you're paying. And, 6 mana for a 4/4 trampler is more than you'd like to pay, but when you can do it turn after turn, you're into that. The question now for Martin is, does he have lethal against Jacob just attacking him? And the answer is very likely no. Given the blockers. But so if that's the case, then does Martin need to start diverting energy over to Watley? Because she'll take over. So the answer is likely yes, unless he finds a way to pump through the damage. Because Martin kind of has the best of both worlds. He's ahead on board, but only by a little now, because of Watley. But he's also ahead on life total, and he's got that Spineback that is going to let him completely dominate the late part of the game as well.
All right, so Territorial Hammer Skull is going to tap down that Frenzied Raptor, and it looked, I couldn't be sure, but it looked like at least some of these creatures are going at Watley.
I would guess all.
8, yeah.
I think that we're in a situation here where Martin is looking at the board and saying, next turn things are likely to look similar, and I can just sit back on the Spineback and just dominate this game. I mean, each one of those that he puts out trumps all of Jacob's creatures, or at the minimum trades. So we're talking about, he's going to pay 6 mana each turn, just making creatures that are equal to or better than everything that Jacob has on the board. And then if somehow Jacob deals with all that, he's going to have 3 or 4 cards in hand that he can use.
Another Frenzied Raptor is the play for Jacob Wilson, just a 4/2.
You can see, though, that Jacob is very aggressive. I mean, that's 2 copies of Frenzied Raptor that we see here. And that is, by the way, both of them. The Raptor hatchling we saw earlier, he's even running 2 copies of Sun-Crowned Hunters. That's the 6 mana 5/4, and it's got Enrage, does 3 damage to your opponent.
Oof, that card is so annoying.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think it's a very good card. Like, I've played it a few times and been actually disappointed by it, but when you're as aggressive as Jacob is, that card, like you said, it's annoying because they're just like, attack.
You're like, well,
like you're either taking 5 or 3.
Free bolt.
Yeah, so it does make life very, very difficult for your opponent if you're the aggressor.
And there you see Ixali's Keeper, which Martin Dang has kind of sitting there on the side of his battlefield. You can pay 8, tap and sacrifice it. Target creature gets +5/+5 and gains trample until end of turn.
Yeah, and he's leaving that up in case the Spineback gets blocked by something that actually kills it, which looks like that's not going to happen here.
Yeah, I like this card because it's a bear when you need a 2/2 for 2, and is relevant later in the game.
Looks like Dinosaur Whisperer there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I've never actually activated the ability.
I haven't either.
So
yeah,
I don't know what that says about the format.
Yeah, it's also a human shaman, which means that it doesn't fit into any of the strategies that you commonly see. Yeah, this thing's just over. I don't see how Jacob can come back
Yeah,
from
Jacob
this.
drops down to 2. A couple of frenzied Raptors in play. Yeah, Jacob's just going to scoop him up. Martin Dang taking the first game there over Jacob Wilson. By the way, Sam Pardee has tied things up 1 game apiece versus... Brad Nelson tied things up 1 game apiece versus Sam Pardee, as Sam had gotten game 1. So they'll be going to game 3 over on our main table.
That was a fast one over there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It must have been the opposite of what we saw in the first game, where perhaps mana issues for Pardee.
Thomas Hendricks up a game versus Matt Nass as well. And there you can see our time walk match over on the left side of your screen, so you have that to look forward to in your future.
We'll be watching that one after this. I'm into that.
Smith-Ayers-Rolf versus Braun-Duin-Muller-Blohon and Lucas Blohon.
It's always fun to watch that too for those of you that follow the Pro Tour and the GPs and sort of the whole professional Magic player scene. It's cool to see how they get shuffled up, because there's some teams that you kind of expect to come out over and over. The Peach Garden Oath is kind of the headliner for that. But there's a lot of teams where maybe there's 2 people that always team together, and then they'll get a third. Or there's teams that you've just never, you know each other? It'll be like some, somebody from Europe and somebody from Asia and somebody from North America, and they're just like super team, and it's just cool to see how the different teams can kind of flop together like that.
Who would be on your team, Marshall?
You and Megan.
Good call.
Oh, yeah, team
I was
podcast.
expecting you to say Huey or something. I'm in.
My Seattle team, though, would be me and Kenji, and then our friend Woodrow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would be
It's a good team.
That would be our team.
Those 2 are no slouch either.
Yeah, they're good. We've actually wanted to get that together, but it's really tough because I'm usually doing coverage.
Yeah.
And then Kenji, sometimes he does coverage, sometimes he just doesn't go, and then sometimes he ends up teaming up with like Oliver 2, or he'll already have a team. Oh God, Kenji, honestly.
Oh,
he just really can't help himself.
What a diva.
It's not enough that we talk about him on camera. When he's not even on, he just has to do the walk by.
That was a really high quality walk by, I have to say. He even gave the little eyebrow raise.
He can't help himself. It's just a compulsion with him.
I'm dying. That was great.
That was too good. See, he ruined it by being in the background, though.
Now maybe he's actually looking at
what is going on here. Oh, it looks like BBD's match is over already.
Oh, all right. BBD coming to help out his teammates, and that's something else about Team Sealed, is that you get to help your fellow players.
Here's one of those cool matchups, by the way. 2 European players and then Brian Braun-Duin.
Yeah, that's a solid team right there.
It is, and it's just an interesting mix of people, Brian lives in Roanoke and tests with all the Roanoke guys all the time, but, doesn't mean that he doesn't have connections and stuff. Chat's like, oh, I missed it. It's okay.
No, you didn't miss anything. Kenji will be back, and you'll get to see his face in a non-sneaky manner.
Kenji's a nice guy. It's cool to see him doing so well. You don't know Kenji.
Kenji, secretly terrible.
Yeah, he does a good job of pretending he's a nice guy in his stream, but you just see him off camera. He just bosses us around. He demands coffee and
only green M&Ms, that kind of thing.
Yeah. He's a real brute, that guy.
He's also
physically strong. He intimidates me, so.
He is physically strong.
Yeah.
Mentally weak.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You know what deck I want to see, Marshall? I was talking to you a little bit before this about this deck, which is the Jade Guardian One with the Wind deck, which, a.k.a.
you have a problem.
Boggles Unlimited.
Boggles in all formats. What's wrong with you?
I don't know. It's a problem, Marshall, but
You're willing to
it's the
pay
first step.
4 mana for your Boggle.
I do what I have to do until R&D prints me another 1/1 hexproof for 1. I've got to live the life that's been handed to me, Marshall.
You know what we say in racing? We say, run what you brung. And that's what that card is. Run what you brung.
It is a legit deck. I've lost to it online.
You're right. Yeah, I remember seeing you tweet about it, and I'm like, I want to try that. And I've seen people play it, and, the deck actually is strong. Like, it
It
really
is.
is.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can't, to hexproof, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
The most you can do is there's a fair amount of bounce in this format, and you can strip away the one with the wind and drop down the merfolk to the ground and block it or something like that.
Yeah, but even that's just tricky business, right?
It is.
Like, that's not a reliable
It
plan.
is. You can, speaking of one with the wind, there is one in Brad Nelson's hand currently.
That could have been part of the reason how Brad won his round his last game so quickly as well.
There's two of them.
It is a very potent card. If it gets interacted with, you're, not super likely to win. But if it does not, you can just win a race super easy. By the way, he actually hit with Explore that time?
Yes, he did. He got the 1/1 counter on Tashana's Wayfinder. Wanted Scoundrel swinging in as well for Pardee here.
This is an interesting option here for Brad. He's been given the choice to make an ostensible trade, though it's not unlikely that a combat trick would mess with that, and it looks like Skullduggery was the one.
Yep, Skullduggery taking out the Wayfinder. Here we have Shapers of Nature for Brad Nelson, which is kind of a premier card in the green-blue Merfolk deck. Allows you to put +1/+1 counters on your creatures for 4, or you can pay 2 and a blue and draw a card, remove a counter.
That card is awesome. I'm really curious if Brad actually trades it off here.
It's so valuable.
It's so valuable, but it's slow. And he needs action. He just can't take 4 forever, though. He's at 20. He can take a hit here.
He's protected his life total so far, so might be willing to drop down to 16.
By the way, you can see how different this game played out than the first one that we watched just because Tashana's Wayfinder actually hit that counter.
That's true.
Like, that slowed down Sam pretty significantly. He had no play otherwise.
And, of course, it did have to die to a Skullduggery, but he's essentially just trading it. And there's another one, followed up by a Wily Goblin coming along with a treasure for Pardee.
I'm kind of surprised to see Wily Goblin in the deck for Pardee. I have been really unimpressed by it so far.
2 red for a 1/1 with a treasure. I don't know. It's not a rate I'm particularly willing to pay.
No, it is a pirate, and he may just needed more pirate bodies for, like, his Dire Fleet captain, for example. I'm going to see how many of those he actually has, because that can certainly change that equation.
Great hat on that goblin, by the way.
Is he wearing a hat? Oh, you're right. Wow, that is some elaborate headwear.
Pirate's Cutlass is the play for Pardee. He's going to be able to attach onto a pirate. And here's another example of, including a pirate in your deck. That might not be the best pirate in your deck, but Wanted Scoundrels is going to be the one to take the blade.
Yeah, the problem here is that Brad had to reveal that
Windstrider.
the Windstrider to his Tashana's Wayfinder Explore. So that's why you see Sam equip it to his bigger creature. Normally you'd want to diversify your threats, but he knows that giving the +1 toughness bump on his 4/3 actually lets it attack through that. And so Sam just remembering that it was there and playing around it simply. All
right, we've got Prosperous Pirates here for Brad. Is going to come along with a couple of treasure as well as a Deep Root Warrior, which is a 2/2 for 2. That turns into a 3/3 when it becomes blocked.
Yeah, Brad just cashed in the treasure immediately to cast his Deep Root Warrior, so he could he could just have 2 creatures down for potentially getting some decent blocks in. Though his blocks look reasonable but not great. The problem once again is the Pirate's Cutlass. It is really just messing with this board from Nelson's perspective, because if Sam attacks, he actually can still kill both creatures. It's only 6 toughness, and he's got 6 power here. So that Cutlass really annoying for Nelson.
Yeah, it looks like he's just going to take 6. Dire Fleet Captain is the play here from Pardee, which gets +1/+1 when it attacks for each other attacking pirate. So that's also going to be something to contend with. 3 pirates total would get +2/+2 currently.
Yeah, attack is a 4/4, not bad.
Yeah, Prosperous Pirates is 5 mana for 3/4, 2 treasure. Pretty good blocker, I suppose.
I'm a big fan of 3/4s.
Yeah?
Yeah, I find 3/4 to be a really good sweet spot as far as power and toughness goes, because you can still normally get a reasonable attack in with it with no easy blocks or trades. I mean, sure, double blocks happen, but that can set you up for some value. And then as a blocker, a 3/4 generally blocks well. It's a good double blocker itself, or it even eats up a lot of the 1, 2, and 3 mana creatures. Even a lot of the 4-drops die to it. So that I'm actually a pretty big fan of Prosperous Pirates. I think it's just a really solid common in the set, and it tends to do good work the turn you play it because of its size.
Yeah, whenever I've had it fall down on the table opposite me, I've always thought, oh, well, that's going to block everything I'm trying to do. That gives a hint to the kind of decks I normally try and play.
It does. Although I thought you were playing like flying hexproof.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've tried to play that deck, Marshall. I've tried so many times. I've forced it, and it just doesn't come to me. It's like, hello, Boggles. I am your greatest champion. Please grace me with your presence.
And Boggles is just like brush its shoulder
nah.
off. Just like, we're good, bro.
Yeah, but I did see, I have seen some just exquisite versions of that deck that have something like 4 One with the Winds, 4 Jade Guardians, just ridiculous. Another card that has impressed me has actually been Deep-Root Warrior, for sure.
Yep.
Can attack with impunity for quite a while into the game. 2 One with the Winds, by the way, in Brad Nelson's hand currently, and he is just going to drop both and smash.
Yeah, it looks like Sam was able to convince Brad that he was going to win the game there.
Oh, yeah, because Brad just swung in, but Sam was showing off his hand there.
Yeah, it was one of those situations where it looks like Brad was maybe setting up for a 2-turn clock and thinking, okay, if I have exactly number of blockers.
So Sam Pardee is going to take that one over Brad Nelson, and we have quick results as well. So Brad Nelson's team, however, is going to take down this match. Martin Dang 2-0 over Jacob Wilson, and 2 games for Thomas Hendricks 0 over Matt Nass.
It looks like that's what happened there, by the way, is that Brad looked to the left and said, how are you guys doing? And they're like, we both just won our match at the same time. And he's like, okay, cool.
Okay, fine, we're done here.
Yeah, I won't tank on this attack any longer then.
All right, we'll have our time walk match for you coming up after these messages. Hello and welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix Providence. Marie Bartholdi in the booth, joined by Marshall Sutcliffe, and we're about to see our time walk match. And boy, oh boy, do we have some good stuff for you here, Marshall. Braun-Duin, Martin Mueller, Lucas Blohon versus some top 4 finishers from our last Team GP Cleveland, Nathan Smith, John Rolfe, and Brandon Ayers. So
Yeah.
let's check it out and head down to the feature match area. There you can see the team on the left side of your screen. Grand Prix Providence, Team Limited. One of my favorite formats, Marshall.
Same.
Same?
Oh, yeah, I love it. The decks are really sweet, and the team aspect is a wrinkle that we just don't normally get in Magic, period, because it's generally just played as a one-on-one game, but there's a certain intensity that increases down in the feature match area when you have teams.
And this format is so new that we get to see players kind of figuring out these cards for the first time here. We're going to start things off with Braun-Duin versus Nathan Smith. We've got some desperate castaways in play for BBD.
That's how I felt this morning when I woke up.
With a fell flagship, this is really sweet here because that's going to give those castaways +1/+1 and allow them to attack as well.
That is a nice little combo. He gets to bash for 3 immediately.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And you were saying you like the Desperate Castaways, too, not only in an aggressive deck, but also in a control deck because they just block so well, especially in multiples.
That's right. And they're cheap. They're easy to get.
Boom.
Wow, this is bad.
Direfleet Hoarder is going to crew up that fell flagship.
Right. It gives all pirates +1/+0, and it requires 3 to crew it. So, but even a 2-powered creature, like the Direfleet Hoarder there, can still crew it. This is not the time to go get a glass of water because Brian is on the warpath, and this game could be over very, very quickly.
Swing for 6?
Yeah, bash. So far, Nathan's done a whole nothing. Is he discarding the hand size?
Has to It was Bishop of the Bloodstain that hit the graveyard there, so yep, looks like it.
He just discarded it to the fell flagship and then played nothing. Well, this is not going well for Nathan Smith. He is getting destroyed. Yeah,
BBD continuing just to smash in there with the fell flagship and the desperate castaways. And like you said, Smith forced to discard every time that fell flagship connects. And, just going to scoop him up. Game 1 going to Braun-Duin.
Yeah, that was him also just not wanting to show Brian any more cards, knowing that his win percent at that point was, less than 5 or
Oh, yeah,
or
absolutely.
So you may as well scoop him up. But it's got to feel good to be in BBD's seat and just sort of get a win off of a non-game there, just like that.
All right, let's take a look here. Martin Mueller versus Brandon Ayers. Martin on 20, Brandon on 12. Deeproot Warrior is going to swing in along with Emperor's Vanguard. Going to be blocked by a Looming Altasaur, 1/7. The Emperor's Vanguard, a pretty powerful card that explores every time it hits. But a 1/7, able to pretty handily block it. We do know Martin Mueller is on red-green dinosaurs. Tashana's Wayfinder here will explore and reveal a Fathom Fleet Firebrand, giving it a +1/+1 counter. Now he's got to make a decision if he wants that card or is going to pitch it. He's going to leave it on top.
Really curious to see if Brandon untaps and has a Belligerent Brontodon here. He's got enough mana for it if he hits a land, and he's got a Looming Altasaur as well as Kinjali's Collar, both of which are kind of staple cards for a Belligerent Brontodon build-around. The problem is that those are like the only 2 cards that really stand out as, oh, this is actually pretty good with Brontodon. And Brontodon's not really that good. Like, it's a 4/6. Yeah, you end up basically playing a 6/6 for 7, which isn't good. But if it's going to make your Looming Altasaur better, a 7/7 effectively, then it does all of a sudden become much better, though it doesn't look like he has it.
Thundering Spineback there, the play for Brandon. Also a really good card.
And this is really good news, by the way, for Brandon, the fact that he's not taking any damage and Martin simply plays a spell and then passes the turn back. And now Brandon gets to untap with the spine back, and he's just like, go. Yeah, because this is now just not where you want to be if you're in Martin Mueller's seat. And this one has really slipped away from him after what looks like it might have been a pretty good start. You can see the life totals are 20-10.
Right, but that Thundering Spineback is able to beef up that Looming Altasaur. Is now a 2/8. And just pumping out 4/4s? Yeah. It's a pretty tough spot for Mueller.
Yeah, forget about it. And, of course, if Mueller had an answer for the spine back, we would have seen that last turn. So, and Brandon knows that. So Martin effectively has to just be stone cold top decking here trying to get there. The only attack he could consider is with the Firebrand, but I don't even think he has enough to pump it to kill the Altasaur.
He can pump it 3 times.
Yeah, so that's only 5 power, and it has 8 toughness, so forget it. And now we're likely to just see Brandon activate the spine back every single turn until he can get Martin, start attacking Martin. Because why would you do anything else?
Yeah, you just want to make the most use of the cards that you currently have on board. You can just fill up your hand with more things if something ever happens to the spine back.
You got to make hay while the sun's shining, Maria, and it is right now. See, this is an interesting play here from Brandon. Like, he's going to play a slightly better creature, right? This can start attacking, and it's got a little bit more toughness. But this is not making hay while the sun's shining. This is allowing Martin to perhaps find an answer for the spine back, kill it, and start to creep his way back in, where if Brandon just says, I'm just going to make a dinosaur every turn.
Sure.
Then Martin finds an answer and kills it. Then he has, a Shining Aerosaur and all these other cards that he can play after the fact. So strategically speaking, it's generally better to do so. Oh, but he actually could use up all of his mana this turn, and this actually explains why he made this play. He got to cast 10 mana worth of dinosaurs in the same turn cycle, and that actually does trump the idea of just spending the 6 to make the 4/4, because he really did add a significant amount, 9 power to the board rather than just 4.
In comes the Shining Aerosaur, as well as the Snapping Sailback, which has Enrage. When it's dealt damage, it gets a +1/+1 counter.
So yeah, this play is just too mana efficient for Brandon to turn down to cast 10 mana worth of dinos, and it makes sense for him to do that.
Is he just getting in here with the Sailback because he knows it's going to just trade with something, and he's totally fine with that?
Yeah, it either forces a chump block or a risky double or triple block, and that just gets super awkward for Mueller too quickly. And it looks like it just traded off
the Emperor's Vanguard there.
Yeah.
Brandon Ayers is going to commune with the dinosaurs. Oh.
What the? Is this real?
Oh, this is so dumb.
He has 2 of those?
Oh, Team Limited, you're so
great.
great.
He's going to have 2 of them
Never
on
change.
board?
Oh, how about just a Colossal Dreadmaw? That's fine, too. 6/6 Trampler.
Well, it's a 7/7 on the board, right?
Yeah, that's true.
My goodness sakes.
And the dinos will get another +1/+1 with that second Thundering Spine back.
Yeah. The interesting, the things you start thinking about at this point, if you're Brandon, the things that you should start thinking about because of how far ahead he is, yet he's decided not to lean on the spine back, are sweepers, right? Effects that can completely sweep the board. And the one that you'd be thinking about here is Star of Extinction. That's the card that could really wreck Brandon Ayers' day if Martin has it.
Regisaur Alpha here is the play for Martin Mueller. It's going to come along with a 3/3 friend. 5/5. Just one of the best cards in the set, but that Thundering Spineback is really putting a crimp in his plans, allowing Ayers to just pump out dinosaurs whenever he wants, and he's got a stacked hand as well. I'm sorry, his name is Reggie.
Yeah, Reggie. He goes by Reggie. Looks like Martin does not have a Star of Extinction in his deck.
It would be so flavorful at this moment.
It really would.
All right, there's a second Thundering Spineback for Ayers. In comes the Colossal Dreadmaw. In comes the Shining Aerosaur. Both currently getting buffed by both of those Thundering Spinebacks. +2/+2.
Well, I've seen enough.
I haven't. This is great.
Yeah, if you like dinosaurs, this is
Carnage.
what they're all about. And I'm not seeing a way for Martin Mueller to get out of this mess.
But it's moments like this I think to myself, I can't. He's really going to try and play out and see any kind of give himself any kind of opportunity he can to potentially win this game. Something I've been working on personally as a Magic player is not kind of feeling really defeated at times like this, and just even if my win percentage is, very, very small, my chance to win the game, still trying my best to put myself in a position where I could make the most out of that percentage.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of edge to be gained from doing that, no doubt about it.
Brandon Ayers is going to take that game over Martin Mueller. Both teams currently with 1 win. Lucas-Blohon, John Rolfe still in game 1. Down on table 3. Some pretty sweet games we've already seen here today. Just wonderful examples of the dinosaur deck there in that match. We've got some blue-black pirates from Brian Braun-Duin here versus Nathan Smith's white-black, sort of a vampire build.
What is going on here? Is that
there?
Does that thing have Mark of the
got,
Vampire,
yeah.
Pirate's Cutlass, and another
and a prying blade?
What in the world?
These desperate castaways sure are desperate.
He made like a Grizzlebrand?
Yeah, make your own.
And he just had a Skullduggery to save it from a double block? Wow.
What a blowout.
Man, Nathan, I am not envious of his position this match. He got completely crushed in the first game. And now he looks like he's missing land drops again, sitting there with 6 cards in hand, and he's facing down this huge...
How big is this thing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 power.
7 power? Wow.
Yep.
So it's a, what is it, a 7-7? 7-6?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6, 7, 6.
7-6 lifelink.
Yep.
So not quite Grizzlebrand.
And every time it connects, you get a treasure as well. No big deal.
Because why not?
We're going to give... let's spread the love out here. We're going to give the prying blade to these prosperous pirates.
But the territorial hammer skull is like... Because I'll tell you what, Maria, a 2-3 for 3 mana is a little below par for what you'd like. When it's attacking, it looks pretty strong, but on blocks, I mean, look what it's doing. It's jumping.
Yeah. Jumping in front of the desperate castaways here. BBD is still just going to gain an insane amount of life. Another 7 to his life total. There comes a treasure there from the prying blade. And yeah, we talked about desperate castaway earlier. Here we have the Ruthless Knave coming in. You can pay 2 and a black to sacrifice a creature and create 2 treasure, and then sacrifice 3 treasure to draw a card. But it's interesting that it seems to have no problem being an attacker in BBD's deck whatsoever.
Yeah, it's still just a pirate with 3 power, and that's plenty enough to get the job done there.
BBD takes that match over Nathan Smith, 1 for his team. Lucas-Blohon picking up the first game there over John Rolfe. Looking in here at table B, Martin Mueller versus Brandon Ayers again. Teolani's Knight entering play for Martin.
Yeah, Teolani's Knight has been really impressive. The card's good.
Plenty of dinosaurs to help it get its +1/+1 ability. But here we go again. Thundering Spineback. Boom! Hits the table for Brandon. Steadfast Armasaur with Vigilance. Getting in for 2.
He's actually getting in for 3.
Oh, for 3, sorry, because of the Spineback.
He played the Spineback first. He had the option of attacking and just leaving up the mana to prevent a block there, but he decided against it.
There we see Crash the Ramparts on used defensively there.
Yeah, and that's a really good use for that, because that Armasaur can be really annoying going into the later part of the game. And so Martin's actually going to be pretty happy to get rid of that. You can see also that Martin's gone a bit all in here with Cobbled Wings. He's just trying to go over the top and get his opponent dead as soon as possible. He actually has 2 copies of Cobbled Wings in his pool, though he's playing 1.
Okay.
Card is not great.
It doesn't give any buff to power or toughness.
No, it doesn't help you on defense really at all unless you're trying to block a flyer. But when you are playing red-green,
you need some way.
Is the best, yeah, because it actually does get you through in the air quite nicely. That was Pounce there from Brandon.
Yep, Pounce there from Brandon, and he's got a Waker of the Wilds in play now as well, which can start animating his lands.
What is going on here? Brandon's deck is insane.
It's sick. I am a fan, Marshall.
Yeah, I also am.
And like you mentioned, there are a few different builds we can think about when we're considering building dinosaurs. We've got a red-green version on Mueller's side of the battlefield and a white-green version on Brandon's side of the battlefield. And we could just mix it up and make a Naya deck as well, is a possibility. Thundering Spineback cracking in for 5 here for Brandon. Leaving a lot of mana up. Can just make a dinosaur if he chooses. Here we have a Death Gorge Scavenger for Mueller, which is able to exile cards from Brandon's graveyard to gain life.
Yeah, he can exile. It's interesting because he has choices here. Generally speaking, you want to exile a creature the turn you play it. That gets you the 2 life. And then when you attack, you want to exile not creatures. And that'll give it +1/+1 until end of turn and make it into a 4/3 on the attack.
So Martin going to move those wings over to the Scavenger. Brandon making a essentially 4/4 dinosaur there with the help of the Thundering Spineback. A Pillar of Origins in play now, which is can be really helpful in a deck that's really mana intensive. I'm sure naming dinosaur in this situation. Swings in with the 5/5 and the 4/4.
This is a pure race situation here. Martin needs to find some way to get his other creature through. He's got a flyer that can become a 4-powered flyer, and that is a 3-power Tilonali's Knight since he controls a dinosaur. But there's 2 blockers down, and there's really 3 blockers down here, and this one I think has slipped away from Martin.
Yeah, Brandon just going to make another 4/4 dinosaur. Martin, 1 card in hand. Swings in with a Scavenger.
Is he going to exile a creature and just go to 8 here? He's certainly facing down lethal.
Yep, he just goes to 8 and extends the hand there. Brandon Ayer is going to take that match 2-0 over Martin Mueller. So it's all up to our final table here. Lucas Blohon versus John Rolfe.
Yeah, that was just a run out of steam type thing there for Mueller. You know, he's playing cards like Cobbled Wings in his deck to try to kind of steal wins and get his big creatures over the top. But when you're behind in the race, or if your opponent is just out-resourcing you, that can be a real liability. He needed some more punch that game, and a few of his weaker cards kind of punished him, and his opponent was able to just generate advantage thanks to that spine back.
So Lucas Blohon here on a white-black deck. John Rolfe playing black-red Pirates, which we've seen a couple of times today. Fathom Fleet Firebrand in play, as well as Headstrong Brute. Lucas Blohon on the attack, getting in with the Skymarch Bloodletter, following it up with a Paladin of the Bloodstained, which is a 3/2 going to come along with a 1/1 lifelinking vampire.
Oh my god.
Wow, fiery cannonade here from John Rolfe.
Game.
Just takes out Lucas's entire team.
Wow, that was impressive. It does 2 damage to each non-pirate creature, and it is an instant. And
brutal.
Oh boy.
Talk about a pirate clasm.
A 3-drop of 4 rot. Wow, that's pretty good.
High five myself.
I like that. Yeah. Can I get one too?
Yeah, there you go.
3-drop, 4-drop, and a token with 1 card. And when you're trying to beat down is a huge swing for John. Yowza. Pirate clasm. You're so proud of yourself.
There's no way that doesn't get anything but an A. Come on.
Somebody give you a C-? That is
unfair. Yeah, and like you said, John just now with 3 creatures in play to Lucas's none. Is able to rebuild a little bit here. Paladin of the Bloodstained coming along once again with a 1/1 lifelinker.
I wonder if John's like, maybe I should have waited.
Yeah. It's so tempting, though. He got 3 creatures.
It's true. It's just that this is the perfect matchup for that card. I mean, it does kill basically everything that deck does.
Right.
You know, I mean, not literally every creature, but the whole game plan is so weak to it.
Fire Cannon Blast takes out the Paladin of the Bloodstain, leaving Lucas with just a 1/1 lifelinker, which we're going to see a Skullduggery here to gain 2 life and and take out the Fathom Fleet Firebrand. 5 damage going unblocked.
By the way, that Pyroclasm is in the main. It is
interesting.
Most consider that a main deckable card. You're going to get something, but it scales up to completely absurd, like against the Vampires deck. If you're playing against dinosaurs, you're a little less happy with it, but you'll often still kill something in game 1 and then likely board it out.
Oh.
Is that Vona?
That is Vona.
Foil
there
Vona?
we go. Foil Vona. Butcher of, how do you say it? Megan?
Magan.
Magan.
Mm-hmm.
Vona, Butcher of Magan, 4/4.
Jesus, not
Lifelinker.
Butcher of Megan.
I'd like my podcast co-host, okay? I promise.
Do to you, yeah.
She can pay 7, tap, 7 life, tap, destroy something. No big deal.
That's it, yeah. Yeah, that is insane. Now, the good news, though, for Lucas here, hitting Vona here is a really big game because of the Vigilance and Lifelink. It is going to put John in an awkward position, especially if Lucas can back up Vona with a combat trick of any sort.
Right.
Because he's going to be priced into blocking here, but even if he does, he's going to lose 2 creatures, and Lucas is going to gain 4 life.
I see an indestructible in Blohon's hand.
Oh, no way.
Yep.
The Sheltering Light?
Sheltering Light.
Okay, well, that is going to make life absurdly difficult.
Another
for John
Skullduggery as well.
Really? He's able to leave up both of those tricks here?
I think that's what I saw.
Yeah, it's funny because after the Pyroclasm that early in the game, I kind of jokingly said, well, maybe he should have held it. And it would help him a little bit if he would have. But I just don't think he can beat Vona when he's stuck on 3 lands. Like, that game looked really well in favor for him, but this has really slipped away from him at this point, as we see Lucas now at a very comfortable 13 life with active Vona. Now, of note, Vona can only do the activated ability during Lucas's turn, so he will not be able to do it at this point, but I think he wants to try to get another hit in with Vona and get his life total fully secured before he starts activating it anyway.
Yeah, that card can just completely take over a game. Captivating Crew here for John Rolfe. Able to steal a card, essentially for 4 mana. Threaten on a stick. Could potentially take something like a Vona. All right, the Sky March Bloodletter and Vona both swinging in for 6. Vona, of course, has Vigilance, so you're able to activate her later.
Marcy Tasserang, sorry, we can't make out your name. You're registered for the 1 p.m. monitor. If your initials are in...
John Rolfe lining up his blocks, Captivating Crew jumping in front of Vona there.
It is a 1-for-1 trade, though as we know, that's not how this is going to go down.
No.
It's like Marcy Tasserang.
Blohon here holding Skullduggery at the ready. Rolfe tapped out.
It doesn't look like Rolfe has anything that dies to Skullduggery on its own. So Lucas instead is just going to shrink down the Captivating Crew and use the other side to just get in for an additional damage.
Yep,
with the Sky March Bloodletter.
+1/+1 on the flyer. Vona lives to life gain and kill another day. Still Sheltering Light in hand for Blohon. Should Rolfe have any way to deal with Vona. Rowdy Crew here for John Rolfe. Let's get rowdy.
So he's going to
Draw 2, discard 2.
Draw 3, discard 2, right?
At random.
Yep, at random.
Are you ready to get rowdy, Marshall?
I am. I mean, I don't think it's going to stay around very long.
No.
Depending on if he hits or not. Because if he hits, it gets 2+1/+1 counter, so it's a 5/5. In which case, Vona will want to
Yeah, we'll want to
snap
deal with
it
that.
off. Yeah.
Oh, so this is how we're doing it.
Yeah, they've got some way worked out. So these cards need to share a type. Oh my God! Lightning Strike just went away.
Lightning Strike and Kite Sail Freebooter hitting the bin, so no counters.
And that means that's just that much worse being one less than Vona's power. One of the things about Vona as well that you have to recognize is, the vigilance means that you can attack and activate the ability. You can do it any time on your turn. It's not as a sorcery. It's a weird restriction.
That's strange.
Yeah, normally you think of it in terms of either you can do it as a sorcery or you can do it anytime you want. But this is kind of in the middle where you can do it anytime you want on your turn. And that means in combat. And that means that Vona's attacking here, and John has to make the decision knowing that one of his blockers could be gone just to Vona, which makes it effectively impossible with Lucas at 17 life. It's just really, really bad position here for John. I don't see how he comes back from this without something major happening. Your normal draw of cards, removal spells aren't going to work given Sheltering Light. Combat isn't going to work given Sheltering Light and the ability of Vona. And in the meantime, the Skymarch Bloodletter, it's doing work.
Yeah, 2/2 flyer.
Chipping right away.
No way for Rolfe to block it currently. And that's the thing, too. I played Rowdy Crew in a deck the other day, Marshall, just to kind of give it a try. And let me tell you, it was always a 3/3 that discarded my 2 best cards.
Was it really? It just felt like it sniped your good cards?
Yes.
I mean, you are up a card in that transaction.
I guess, that's true.
I mean, if it's your worst card, maybe you're not as happy about it.
Wow, 3 creatures jumping in front of Vona here.
Well, that's game.
Oh, boy.
Because Sheltering Light is just going to be a
rough.
wrecking ball here.
And you get a Scry as well off of Sheltering Light. Taking out Direfleet Captain and the Fathom Fleet Firebrand.
Yeah, he's also just going to go ahead and leave John with no permanents outside of that one creature up top.
Vona getting her Butcher on. Down goes the Rowdy Crew. They had fun while it lasted, I suppose.
Yep.
And another Paladin of the Bloodstained coming in with a 1/1 lifelinker.
Yeah, this game has turned around so sharply. It turns out 1 bomb mythic rare, and all of a sudden things look pretty good there for Lucas. He's also done a good job of building his deck to support it.
Right.
Which is, that's an important
These are all
factor.
vampires.
Yeah, because if he hadn't done that, I mean, we would have seen this Vona be off the table a long time ago, just even through combat.
And it shows the power of putting in cards like Sheltering Light, which I'm not sure if he put it in his main or if he was sideboarding it in.
Yeah, I would.
But if you
assume
have
it's
something
main.
like some really, really powerful bombs and you want to make sure they're protected, like Vona, it's definitely a card you can consider putting in your main. And there we see Lucas Blohon taking the match 2-0 over John Rolfe. So Team Brian, Braun-Duin, Martin Mueller, and Lucas Blohon advanced to 2-0 here at Grand Prix Providence. More Magic after these messages.